we're talking all about creative growth, some of the lessons learned, things that I'm integrating into my creative practice, and key takeaways that you can also implement in your own multi passionate creative journey. Let's jump right in. Hi, I'm Renata McElvany, a creativity coach, a designer, artist, and all around multi passionate creative. And this is part three of my multi passionate creative diary series. This is a series where I go behind the scenes and share what it's like to be a multi passionate creative, where I share not the polished and perfectly curated and aesthetic side of things, but the real, human, messy, and complicated creative journey. First, let me tell you a little bit about what has shifted since the beginning of this video series. The first thing that I want to talk about is my fear of being confusing. At first, I was worried that if I shared all my different skill sets, people would be turned off by it. People would be confused. They would think that I'm scattered and that I'm not to be trustworthy because I'm all over the place. But as I started to share my art, me collaging, me designing, I started to feel more comfortable and I realized that my passions are not really all over the place because one of the threads that brings everything together is creativity. And I feel more like my true self and like I'm telling the complete story and people are able to see how I'm weaving different things that I do into a cohesive whole. Moving forward, I feel like this is something that I'm going to continue to explore and continue to bring into my work. The other thing that I want to share is that in the beginning, I was really comfortable doing talking head videos, but this series has forced me to try on my vlogger hat. And that was something that I was really afraid of in the beginning because I wasn't sure if I could do it. I didn't know if it was going to be a lot of work. I was worried that my place isn't aesthetic like other vloggers that I see on YouTube. And I think that we tend to put a lot of pressure on ourselves and we tend to set these really high expectations for our work. But I gave myself the opportunity to try. And I'm really glad I did because it's thanks to this experience that I now have a better idea of what I like to do and what I don't enjoy. And this is helpful because you can think and think about things, but it's not until you do something that you realize whether you like it or not. And like I've been consuming vlogs forever, right? Like I've been on the internet forever. I know what they're supposed to look like, but it's very different when you start doing something yourself and you realize that there's a learning curve and that you have to learn skills to be able to bring your vision to life. And it's okay that you are not good at everything, but the most important thing is to try and to give yourself a chance to learn. Now, let me tell you a little bit about some of the tensions, emotional tensions that I'm holding and things that I'm not really rushing to try to resolve. And one of the things I realized is that I don't need to perform to be liked and accepted online. I realize that being myself is enough. And it's also true that there's a level of performance that we have to partake in online, especially when you're trying to share art, when you're trying to talk about your work. The truth is that we have to create content and we have to package our work to tell a story, to be able to talk about what we do. And that innately has a level of performance that you just cannot get away from. But I say that the most important thing that I learned is to be deliberate with the story that I'm trying to tell and the sides of me that I want to share with the world. I'm no longer fighting the side of me that has to perform to an extent. And I'm realizing that this comes with the territory, but I'm mindful and I'm intentional, and that lets me sleep at night. So I really encourage all of you to be authentic instead of trying to perform for an audience. The other thing that I'm sitting with is the idea of changing and evolving. When I didn't know I was multi passionate, I used to dread noticing when I wanted to change things up, because everyone tells you that you're supposed to stick to one thing and that you're supposed to find the right permanent thing to pursue. And when that doesn't happen, we tend to internalize that feeling as a personal flaw. And whenever I would notice myself shifting, I would start to hate it because I'm like, gosh, why can't I ever stick with one thing? But now I have a better idea of who I am. I understand that changing is going to be part of my journey because it's just the way it is. It's guaranteed to happen because it's part of my DNA as a multi passionate creative. And it's also true, like, it's okay to stick to one thing for a period of time, to be able to see your ideas through, to be able to make sense of what you're doing. And sometimes we cut ourselves short by trying to take shortcuts or quitting before we even get a chance to really grow. And so there's that tension that I'm talking about, that I'm sitting with and holding, and I'm learning. And I don't have a definitive answer, but I think even just sitting in that discomfort of not knowing for sure is something that is teaching me so much. My final key takeaways are this. The first is that documenting our experience through a creative project is one of the most powerful reminders that this project gave me, because I realized that as I shared my collages, as I share illustrations, as I shared myself designing, I grew and I understood myself better and I had better questions to ask myself. And when I look at this time capsule of a project, I'm going to be able to remember where I was and what I was working through and ask even better questions and be able to reflect based on my past self. And I think this is the biggest gift that creativity offers us, an ability to be able to reflect on what matters to us and the journey that we've been on. And if there's any reason to start a creative project, I will say is this: document your life, document your thoughts, and use this to better yourself. And the last key takeaway is around indecision. If you are thinking about making a decision and you're not really sure which direction to take, I highly, highly encourage you to simply make a decision, even if that means writing it on a piece of paper and choosing a random and picking a direction. Because no amount of overthinking, planning is going to keep you from making mistakes, failing, and changing your mind. But if you can remember that every failure and so called mistake is an opportunity for growth and learning, then there's really no mistake or failure at the end of the day. Everything is helping you to become your best self if you choose to. So I'm really glad that I took on this project because now I have a real tangible example of what this can look like based on myself. I created that template for myself and I can build on it, I can change, but there's a starting point and I'm no longer trying to imagine it in my head. I want to end this video with a powerful question to inspire you in your own multi passionate journey. And I want you to consider the following: if you stop worrying about how everyone else perceives you, what kind of life and creative work will you give yourself permission to create? I would love to hear all about it in the comments down below. And if you like this video and this series, I would love if you hit like and subscribe. And that's it. That's the episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.